Yeah, right away. I'm sure of that.
No, it's not your Brian.
I'm not banging on.
Sugar-free, low, no fattening.
Yeah, no cholesterol, no nothing, it's all healthy.
All
Call
healthy
the
stuff.
meeting to order. Can you guys do that? Phil and Amanda will let me know. if you Can't hear things or if you stop picking up. A lot of people remote. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence.
Well, shoot. That's what happened.
Jonathan Anna. Would be a little late. Ben Vitale,
Here.
Tom Winslow,
Here.
Bob Shay,
Here.
Hans Petcher,
Here.
Mark Strong,
Here.
Heidi Nightingale,
Present.
Elaine Daly,
Here.
Stephanie DeVito,
Here.
Brian Muldrow. Excused. Eileen McDan Pullman.
Present.
Thank you.
You should have.
So welcome to the tentative budget and presentation. I want to thank every department head for meeting with Lynn and I to discuss their operating budget expenses and working through some strategies. Both Lynn and I will share the presentation, but I want you to pay close attention to the tax rate increase. And for the legislators, please look at the trends of fund balance use. Understand that this tentative budget has a significant impact to our fund balance policy. This is a difficult budget to share, and this is a difficult year that we are facing. It's been at least 2 decades, since the budget has been proposed with any divisions that are currently built. This should signal to you and everyone in attendance that this is a very difficult budget. Following this meeting, legislators will get their budget binders. So we'll hand out that and then a couple of corresponding sheets that go with it. I'm going to get started. You'll see this inside your front cover of your budget book. We're currently governing alongside yet another crisis, one in which we did not foresee, and one that has led to the closure of the county office building located at 160 Genesee Street in Auburn, New York. Subsequently, environmental testing, relocation planning, and hazardous material mitigation planning have taken over a large percentage of time and effort by administration. However, this operating budget is not heavily impacted by the crisis, as much as is reflective of the rising costs of operating the municipality in 2025. Healthcare and retirement contribution increases, rising costs of foster care and homelessness, contractual agreements for increased salary and wages, along with intentional upgrades to our sheriff's department in 2021 to 2024, all present significant challenges to the planning and preparing for the 2025 budget. Included in this budget are also capital upgrades which can no longer be deferred. Attached to the 2025 tentative budget for your review, this document is the work of our department heads, the Cayuga County Budget Director, and myself as acting budget officer. The budget is based on a 4% property tax increase, while the tax cap for 2025 is estimated to be approximately 4.25%. This translates to an effective tax rate decrease of 7.86%, and Lynn will go into that during the presentation. It has a budgeted draw on the general fund balance of approximately $6.5 million, down from the $7 million that was drawn to balance the 2024 adopted budget. Cayuga County will continue to monitor a decreased sales tax performance, which has remained steady this last quarter. Overall, in response to fiscal constraints and structural deficits that has been handed to us, I feel the 2025 budget is fiscally responsible and provides for the needs of our county. Our department heads and employees have all been through a long period of tremendous stress. I sincerely thank them for their continued dedication to providing the highest quality of service delivery for the residents of our county. Cayuga County employees continue to prove to be our greatest asset. Please provide the due diligence that it takes to carefully review this budget and carefully consider its impact on operations and service delivery. I do appreciate your partnership. Jonathan, we have a seat ready for you. For the 2025 budget goals. Minimal property tax increase of 4%. This still remains below the tax cap estimated at 4.25. It manages fund balance per county fund balance policy, just barely. It provides for investment in capital projects and repairs. And it calls for strategic investments in county operations such as buildings and highway, IT, and Parks Department. I'm gonna let Lynn talk to you about the summary of our 2025 budget by fund.
This is just a summary, plans. Total appropriations in the general fund is 172 million. For the highway fund, it's 14 million, and road machinery 3.5. And for we have employment and training in a separate fund, it's 1.2 million. So total appropriations is $192 million. If you look over to the column that says the use or the increase in unappropriated fund balance, that shows you that for the general fund, we're proposing using $6.5 million to balance the budget. For the highway fund and the road machinery fund, there were negatives around those numbers because we're actually adding to those fund balances. They are separate from the A funds, so we kind of have to keep them at a healthy level, and the highway fund definitely needed to have that added. This will equate down to using a net of total fund balances of 6.3 million when you look at all the funds together. And at the bottom there, you can see we're proposing that the tax levy would be $45,336,519.
Here you can see the growth of the tax increases from 2008 to 2025. Fairly steady. There hasn't been, there's been a few moments of large increases, but for the most part, since 2020, pretty relatively sort of stays within kind of a smaller increase confine. So, and you can see the 2025 increase is just the increase on the end. I believe last year
It's two.
two straight. Yeah. So sure, 4. So we've had many budget pressures in creating this budget. There's a 15% increase in Dallas health insurance premiums. This alone is very devastating. There's also a 29% to 46% increase in PPO health insurance premiums. Increase in retirement contribution rates amounts to about $675,000. There are salary increases for employees. Of course, we've settled some contracts a couple of years ago, and that's now all coming to fruition. We have some capital investment in buildings and IT work that have gotten done and will be getting done. Increased investment in highway. We have new costs related to the closure of the county office building and relocation costs. This amount inside of this budget is only equating to $770,000. And I'm probably going to repeat this a couple times during this presentation. This presentation is for the operating budget, and this presentation does not include the decisions that we need to make about the county office building moving forward. And then we also have to think about just the overall increased costs that we're all seeing related to price increases.
Are these in our binder? So we don't have, these slides are not in our
Oh, they're
binder?
No, I can send them out.
Okay, that'd be great.
We have some budget enhancers. We increased the sales tax budget by $600,000. We have used capital reserves for the replacement of the roof in the existing chiller at the public safety building, an estimated cost of $2 million. So we're able to go into reserves for that cost. And the use of ARPA funds to replace the county bridge, approximately 1.1 million of ARPA funds. Okay, up next we have positions. So this budget calls for elimination of funding for 19 full-time positions and adding 1 full-time position. 11 of the 19 positions are vacant but budgeted. Though they are vacant at this time, those are positions that these department heads are counting on or were counting on. So this is detrimental to their operations. But 8 are positions that people occupy. This also eliminates the funding for 4 part-time positions. We did also add other 4 part-time positions, we sort of made agreements and have strategies in other areas to allow us to do that.
Could you ask Amanda to go back to the one slide before this? So I can, under the increase in sales tax budgeted by 600,000 is representing the sales tax increase? That's what the 4% will give us? No, what
1% is the property tax.
Sales tax
Sales
increase.
tax.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'm like, duh. All right, so this, you're assuming that we'll have an increase in sales tax by 600, where this budget is, by 600,000 and you budget accordingly. Okay, yep. I'm like,
Departments with reduced staff, I have contacted everyone who's being impacted, planning, HR, DMV, EMO, county clerk, county attorney, buildings, probation, health department, social services, highway, mental health, and the sheriff. So as you can see, everyone has been touched by this budget in some way, shape, or form. Departments with additional staff. So we had to make some really good decisions about what to do. For instance, a district attorney has a position that is grant funded. So we obviously would fill that. EMO, we've talked about, strategies for an increase in a position there. To help with some specific roles, social services and highway as well. So some of this has been, we had to eliminate 2 to get 1. This is kind of an example of that. The reduction of overall staffing in the 2025 budget will result in a savings of approximately 1.2 million. I wanted to give a slide specific to the sheriff's department. So as you can see by this table, road patrol has increased its expenses by $2 million since 2021. And the jail has increased its expenses by 2.8 million since 2021. Having sat in these seats, I said that the cost of doing business for the sheriff has increased, and I have supported these increases over the past few years. This department is an example of necessary upgrade, but also serves as a budget constraint that we must offset costs in other areas and with other strategies. So this is just an example. the cost of doing business just for the sheriff alone, huge increases. Are they necessary? Yes. This is part of the budget increases that we can't control. We need to have these services. So I know that I've let the sheriff know through the years, the past few years especially, and I've said this specifically, the sentence is, your cost of doing business has increased. Salary and wages have increased, and we want to continue to attract the right people to our departments. We need to have the equipment, we need to have the cars. And, you know, since in the past 4 years, that's monitored here by this table, you can see that, you know, he's not, you know, living, you know, in the land of luxury. You know, he doesn't have all these additional people and all these additional things. It's just merely been the cost of doing business. So I wanted to just point that out. Lynn, do you want to go next?
Yeah. This is some summary work of me trying to estimate the fund balance. At the end of 23, the unappropriated fund balance was at $17 million, and we had appropriated $7 million towards the 24 operations. I'm estimating that we should be at around 23 million in the fund balance before we appropriate money to the 2025 budget. Some of the performance in 24, it gets a little confusing with encumbrances. We had a large amount of encumbrances that carried forward from 23 to 24, and that's actually one of the reasons that we were so low with 17 million. But we pretty much, I think we're going to use about $1 million of the fund balance. That is after I had recorded about $2.7 million in additional ARPA revenue to offset our current operations. So if we hadn't done that, we would have been using closer to 3.7 million. And we have at least probably $500,000 at least that we haven't spent actually because of the closure, meaning that we were going to do work on other buildings. You know, obviously priorities have switched a lot for buildings and grounds, and they weren't able to maybe work on some projects because we've had to work on relocating people and setting other areas up. So we actually had some savings. We didn't have to pay for cleaning in the building that we didn't have anymore. So, you know, I think that overall operations have been okay for 24 because we did decide to sweep in that $2.7 million of ARPA funds. So after that, when we set aside what this budget proposes, $6.6 million, we would have an unreserved, unappropriated balance of $16.6 million when we close 2024. That would be kind of what the auditors would probably be presenting. And that is within our policy. Our policy for the fund balance is that we look at calculating 10 to 15% of total gross revenues of the county. That's our policy. Right now, that falls at $16 million to $24 million. So we are within the policy, but we are definitely at the lower end of it with this projection.
For some of you who have not been through this before, so we've never really, not in recent years that I've been here, we have been this close to the fund balance policy amount to the lower level of it. The policy is to be sure that we have enough cash on hand to make sure that we ensure very good bond ratings and be able to respond to emergencies or any other unplanned events. So it's very important that we follow our fund balance policy. So next you'll see chart the budgeted fund balance draws 2015 to present. As you can see, trend in the specifically 22 on. You can see that in black it's from the general fund, in green is from the county road fund, and white is the road machinery fund, A, the D, and the DM respectively. So see what the A fund is. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. So we have 2025 general fund revenue. I can read some of this, some of you. So we have federal aid up top. I'm gonna go around clockwise. Property tax is about $45 million, 33% of our general fund revenue. Sales tax is 31 million, equates to about 23%. General fees, 18 million, 14%. Transfer from other funds is nothing, less than $100,000. State aid is 20% of our general fund revenue. Whoops. Somebody's calling. Okay. State aid is 26 million, 20%. Federal aid is 13 million or 10%. Oops, hang on a second. Very popular. We have sales tax revenue versus the budgeted. So every year, obviously it's a budget. We're trying to do a best guesstimate about how sales tax will perform. As you can see, all the years leading up to 2020, 2021, of course, the pandemic, you're able to see the sales tax actual versus the budget. We were in one of those kind of really good situations during the pandemic because we kind of did well. And then, as you can see now, it's like just starting to dip. And when I first came on as a legislator, we were always told, you really can't balance your budget with your sales tax because it fluctuates. And I think now we're going to start to see the trend that we need to go back to, which is we can't really depend on that for budgeting. Okay, so this is the three funds for the county, the A fund, the general fund, as Lynn pointed out, with this tentative budget as it is, will leave us with 16.6. The D fund is the 350,000, the DM is 1.5 for a grand total of 18,450. But if you remember, that policy is really just about the A fund usage. We still have some reserve funds in Cayuga County, so we still have a repair fund, 805,000. We have a capital, 5.5. Highway is 3.5. So it's just about 10 million. So here's our general fund expenditures. As you can see, we have a large piece of the pie is our salaries. We have fringe benefits, 15%. Equipment, the small slice there is the college at 3%. Medicaid, debt service, transfer to highway, jail contractual, and then a big basket of other. Mm-hmm. 2025 initiatives. Continuing operations related to the COB closure and relocation of services. So, as you know, we were handed this sort of disaster. And just keeping everybody afloat is our initiative for 2025. I'd like to say it's a brand new something or other, but it's not. It's just keeping ourselves going. We have use of capital reserve for a new roof and chiller public safety building, very important. And the use of repair reserve for masonry work at the HPO and the pavilion facade repair in Emerson Park. Okay, in conclusion, I do feel this is a responsible budget. It is not an easy budget, and it is not something I have ever dreamt about standing up here and talking to you about. Certainly when I first became a legislator, it's not during times like this. So this is all new territory for all of us. We have large increases in health insurance and retirement contributions that are outside the county's control. We have made strategic and capital and organizational investments. This still maintains the adequate fund balance and reserves. Our next steps is to set the preliminary budget in 15 days, and I'll get to that. And then the last slide is just about questions. But I do want to tell you that following this meeting, legislators on Ways and Means Committee get 15 days to make amendments. Any amendments that are approved by the full legislature by November 29th becomes the tentative as amended budget. When the tentative as amended budget will go to the full legislature for further amendments and a final vote. If the budget cannot be approved or adopted by the full legislature by December 20th, the tentative as amended budget becomes the 2025 budget. So with that, we'll entertain some questions.
Crickets.
Hector,
Are we gonna have a printed form of the budget in front of us pretty soon?
in about 2 minutes.
Good.
Maybe send you this slideshow. I have some supplemental papers to go along with your budget books that kind of breaks some things down more easily as well, that kind of be a aid to you in work. I really do, as I said it before, I really want to underscore that this group needs to really roll up their sleeves and make some tough decisions. I believe I've given you something that's responsible, but I think that there's some things to work on. So I'm hoping that we can all work together, get something accomplished that we can all agree on. Any other questions?
I just have a matter of clarification by Fred, or anyone. This budget now goes to the actual Ways and Means Committee,
That's correct.
and that's the opportunity for the members on the Ways and Means Committee to make any changes or additions or cuts to this budget,
Yes.
and then vote on it as that 5-member group.
They'll put together a report, they'll vote on the report, the changes, the amendments, the additions. That document goes to the legislature. I think it's on the 26th.
Full ledge meeting.
Full ledge meeting. The ledge will vote on that document, okay, and the budget.
Okay, so the 2 separate meetings, the 19th and the 21st, are special Ways and Means meetings where we're going to, if I'm not mistaken, get additional, more in-depth information about the various departments that report to, for example, Health and Human Services, Judicial and Public Safety. That's how the schedule reads.
Yes,
And the Ways and Means is all going to have another meeting on the 21st to go over in more detail the budgets of the other various departments, government ops, the report to government ops, planning and public works, and ways.
yes.
And the Ways and Means Committee can make changes or recommendations at any point, but it is the meeting of the 26th where we would come with.
So Ways and Means is going to do its review.
Yep.
Come up with a document that says, here are our changes. So you're going to have this budget plus the changes. It's going to go, that goes to the full legislature. The legislature then votes it up, votes it down, makes additional changes. Whatever's left at that point goes to the public hearing in December.
So the Ways and Means Committee cannot unilaterally make any changes to the budget. They can recommend changes to the full legislature, who will then take those recommendations and say yep or no. And then at the full ledge, any other legislator could come with their recommendations for a vote? Is
That's
that
correct.
Okay, okay,
And whatever the end result of that discussion is,
okay.
that document, if you will, goes to the public hearing.
Yep.
The public hearing, the public has its say, and then it moves on from there.
So there is no independent authority of Ways and Means to make any changes without them coming. We can make recommendations.
Make recommendations to the full ledge, and the
Okay.
full ledge votes them up, down, and in any additions they may have.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Sounds like fun.
Oh,
I have one foolish question. I can recall that there was a $7.6 million draw from the fund balance last year. But that included the defund. Is that why it's only 7?
Right, I mean, probably the total, I
Yes.
have it in front of me, was that it added up to.
Because if that's true, then this particular tentative budget, if it's at 6.6, it really cuts almost $1 million out of the fund balance draw. If it was 7.6 last year, or,
Right, but they are completely separate funds.
okay, so that,
You really just have to look at them
so
separately.
it's the A fund draw that was 6 million, 7 million, excuse me. And then the other fund made it 7.6. Okay.
Your budget books will have your names on them and the inside cover. Get those passed out.
Yeah.
Can we get a motion to adjourn? Second.